On today's show, we'll be talking about a career that has an extraordinarily narrow entry point, a physically brutal decade or so at the top, and an early exit, often with lasting damage to the body. And no, we're not talking about professional athletes. We're going to be talking with Suzanne Longley, former ballerina of the Houston Ballet, with a story of pirouettes and pivots that reflect resilience at its strongest. Stay tuned.
We can't fix grief, but what we can do is sit with someone in it and allow them the space to share their story. Because grief doesn't end after the funeral. Timely Presence sends milestone-timed, personalized gifts throughout the first year of grief. Quiet reminders that someone and the love around them are still remembered. Timely Presence. Show up when it matters most.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm Madeline Blair, and this is Unlocked, a show all about unlocking the resilient leader in you. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates roughly 13,900 employed dancers of all kinds, with a much smaller subset, around 460, holding positions as established ballet companies. Only about 2,500 new dance openings of any kind arise each year nationally. And their careers are shockingly short. The median retirement age in the United Kingdom, for example, was 29. Most retire between their late 20s and mid-30s. That means a dancer who joins a company at 18 may have only 10 to 15 years of performance career. Injury rates are staggering. 67 to 95% of professional ballet dancers experience significant injuries. 36% of those who retire cite musculoskeletal injury as the direct cause. Hip, back, ankle, and knee damage are the most common culprits. And 91% of retired dancers report ongoing muscle and joint pain afterwards. And in the U.S., there are only 5 geographic concentrations for dancers: New York City, San Francisco, Chicago, D.C., and Houston. Talk about exclusivity and built-in limits. 382 NFL players are in the Hall of Fame today. In the world of ballet, you often hear of the prima ballerina, but across all of recorded ballet history, fewer than 20 people were given that title. I told you, exclusive. Life after ballet is gaunt. You retire at 30, usually with a damaged body and often with no college degree. Today, I want to introduce and talk with one ballerina who made it through this gauntlet with a totally unexpected story. And if you are impressed with the few stats I just listed here, stay tuned for Grounds for Thought. I'll be comparing ballet to some sports. You'll be blown away when you look at the scales. Now, for my guest. My guest is Suzanne Longley. Now, when I asked Suzanne for her bio, she sent a lovely story, and I'm going to read from it. She says, "My childhood passion for ballet eventually led me to the Washington School of Ballet, then to the National Ballet of Washington, and later to the Houston Ballet, where I had the honor of performing Aurora in Houston Ballet's Sleeping Beauty at the Kennedy Center in 1979. And after 23 years, of dancing, my body told me it was time to rest. But my pursuit of beauty found a new stage. As a once dear architect friend once told me, beauty is not an option. That became my life's mantra, she says. And in 1969, she founded Suzanne Longley Landscapes. Suzanne, welcome to Unlock It.
Thank you. Thank you, Madeline. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's so much more about you that I wanted to say, but I think it's going to come out in our conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a funny transition. So everybody. That's the first question everybody asks me.
Yeah, because everybody says, well, you can always teach ballet, but it's not for everybody.
I did that also, but
yeah, true. So when I imagine a ballerina, two images come to my mind. One is of a 5-year-old girl dressed in a little tutu with sparkles in her hair, trying hard to look like a ballerina as she walks hesitantly across the stage. But the other is of a woman, her hair tied up in a tight bun, exquisite makeup on, and presenting a beautiful, graceful line. She glides across the stage. Now, I'm told it's about 17 years of hard work between that 5-year-old and her grown-up self. I wonder if you would talk about what those 17 years look and feel like. And frankly, what kept you going through that time? And in what I've told is a fair amount of pain.
oh yes. Well, that's something that you just immediately realize is part of the part of the training. And a lot of people drop out, very very fast in the beginning. We weren't allowed to start training until 8 because I was in a professional school with this spectacular teacher, Mrs. Lucille Hood. And she was the teacher at the Rockville branch of the Washington School of the Ballet, Mary Day. And so she was very disciplined, the most beautiful woman you have ever seen. And her training was just absolutely exquisite. And we didn't wear sparkles. We wore pink tights. We wore a uniform, a blue leotard, and for the recitals at the end, we did have a little tiny tutu, two of which I still have. And I thought I should have brought those today to show you how little they were. Those are just adorable. But I had such good training from the very beginning. And then from there, I went down to the main school in Washington, Porter in Wisconsin, which is still there. We just celebrated 75 years right before COVID. And Mary Day is gone, but her legacy, she took over the spectacular training and took me on down to we had an academy. There was a Washington School of the Ballet Academy. So we had from 8th grade to 12th grade, I had my ballet courses and my Latin and my history and my geography and my math and all that all together. So it was like Fame, the TV program. Remember that in New York? So we did that, and there were 8 of us in the 8th grade, and there were 18 of us in my graduating class in 1972.
Oh, I love it. There was 800 in my graduating class.
Oh, I know. It was a very very special group of people.
Oh. Well, I want to jump back to those early years where you talk about you had such a wonderful instructor, and yet she was very tough. Can you describe to us what it means? What's the toughness about this?
Well, there is such a specific way of doing things where the lines of the arms and the head and everything, every direction that you put your body, it has an absolute look. And so you're going for this absolute look and line and beauty. And then when you start moving, it has to flow, and the when you jump and each step has to move to the next. So it's not, um, it isn't, it, it has to really, the ballon from the feet to the calves to the jumping and all that, it has to flow, and and it has to be musical. And my teacher, like not very many schools, had a live pianist
Mm.
there every single class. We never did records or anything. We had the music. We had this really good pianist who knew how to play for a ballet class. That's a special uh, opening right there. I mean, to play for a ballet class. I have a conductor friend in Houston who had a very funny story about how he started doing that, and it's very specific. So,
Mm. Yes, because you would have to keep a perfect rhythm.
oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and it has to be even, and then you turn to the other side as you're at the bar. You're on one side, and then you turn to the other side, and it's very very specific.
Ah, okay.
So anyway, but it was so lovely to have music, and I really wanted to play the piano. And I took piano for 5 years. I had a good teacher, but somehow I could not make my hands do what my feet would do.
Interesting.
So the feet took over,
Yeah.
and my hands were too little to reach the octaves,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it just wasn't happening.
Okay. Well, as I recall, we have some images that we might use to help people see some of the things that you're talking about. So, does this feel like a good time for you to
Sure.
share those? All right. First of all, this is you when
Yeah.
you were a ballerina. And I just love this one when you sent it to me. I know you send it as a headshot, but I thought, no, everybody has to see this immediately.
Things have changed.
Yeah. And this is one of the classic things when I think of a ballerina. I wonder if you talk about these poses. We have about three of them here that you can talk to. So you just tell me when you want me to change the slide.
Sure. This is Sugar Plum Fairy, one of my favorite pieces to do, because I did Nutcracker every year of my life for 23 years or more. No, it was more than that because we did it in school. So, um, and the music, I just love the Tchaikovsky, and that particular pas de deux and the variations. The music is just so absolutely magical. So the position is a fifth and on point, and that's her fairy position is the hand in front, so
So that's the fairy position.
fairy position.
Okay.
Go ahead. This is Swan Lake, Odette, the White Swan, and again Tchaikovsky music. Um, Absolutely stunning, wonderful to dance to, great fun story to get into, and the prince finding her, and just saving her, and just all those romantic notions.
Mm. When I look at this image, Suzanne, I believe it or not, what I see is this marvelous, perfectly horizontal back that you present
Hmm.
and that diagonal of your leg. It's really quite striking.
Yeah, the form is very rigid. The form is rigid because you have to achieve certain form to do the right style for each ballet.
Yeah.
So that is what we strive for in our 8 hours of rehearsal a day. And it's 2 hours of class every day, um, working on your technique, and then 6 hours of rehearsal working on whatever ballet you're preparing for.
Great.
So
Are we ready for the next?
yes, this is Giselle, first act, and I had quite a good jump. The ballon, I learned that from my teacher, my first teacher. I remember it was actually Nolan Dingman, this wonderful teacher um, from North Carolina School of the Arts, and he really saw that I could jump, and he really encouraged me to use that ballon, and it's just a natural rhythm of getting up in the air, and you have to get your hips up. You can't just throw your legs out. You have to get your hips up into the air, which you can see I'm about 4.5 feet off the floor. And the boys gave me a hard time because I could do double saut basque and double tours, and I could jump as high as I could.
When I first looked at this, I thought, that's what Baryshnikov is famous for,
Yeah,
his huge leaps.
right. Yeah, unfortunately, I was supposed to dance with him once, but it didn't. It never happened. So
Oh, well. Well, before we move on to your next pirouette, let's talk about your career as a ballerina. And we have, I think, a couple of more slides. Maybe we'll start here.
this was a really unusual ballet. It was called Prodigal Son in Ragtime, and the boy I have my hand on is Billy Pizzuto. He was the prodigal son. And in ragtime, it was all done to obviously the ragtime music um, and tap dancing. So Billy did lots of tap dancing to this ragtime music, and it was a combination of tapping and ballet. I was playing the siren, and she was in a Marlene Dietrich um, look with I had a wig, a platinum blonde wig with the curls, and I had these. I took my eyebrows off, and the eyebrows went up this big arch, and so it was quite a production to get going. And um, Barry Moore was the choreographer.
Hmm.
Um, it was very structured, very uh, he was into a lot of Graham movement, so the picture seated is all twisted and the body. It was really hard to do. Very, very tough technically, and also very exposed because you're in silvery white unitard, and that all that was painted except for the collar, which was a satin collar. So
Did you get warm in it? If it
and
was,
a top hat. Oh no, no. Well, I mean, we were always sweating, but the top hat was real, and it came on and off during the solo and during it was, and then put back on. I mean, it was really there was a lot of um, difficult moves in that particular ballet.
okay, let's look at the next.
This
There
is
you are with your big leap.
yes, and this was Papillon, and this was set and created by Ronald Hind of Royal Ballet. He was with the Royal Ballet when he and his wife Annette Page danced, and they came to Houston Ballet numerous times. And this time he set a full-length ballet, and he chose me as the Papillon, and because he envisioned all this jumping. So very, very difficult technically. Um, uh, a funny story about a girl changing into a butterfly, and the witch Hamsa changes her into a butterfly, and then people keep changing. It's very funny. It's very amusing. And Ronnie was so good at humor. I mean, we were always laughing, and he he was such a love to work with when we were training and learning. We put this probably together in 8 weeks, and then performed at Houston Ballet's Jones Hall.
Ballet is so demanding of the body. A ballerina usually ends her performance early in her 30s. Talk about your pirouette to a normal life, a more normal life, or perhaps I should use the more business term, your pivot.
My pivot. My pivot was painful because I snapped my ACL in my left knee, and I saw the other people in the company. Numerous people had done it, and they went in and they did surgery. And the surgery, I was not very pleased with their progress after the surgery. It didn't look like they knew what they were doing. And honestly, in the 80s, that was 81, they really didn't know. They didn't really know. So I chose to rehab. And so my thighs got really muscular because the thigh muscle and all those muscles were holding my knee together. And I danced for about 4 more years with no ACL. And so then the jump came down a little bit because the landings were tough. I couldn't really, I didn't have the torque. If you don't have the torque in your knees, you can't push. And so I couldn't really push myself as much as I used to be able to. And I just felt at that point at 31, I just thought, I think I've just had enough. And I was worried about walking into old age. I was thinking that far ahead. I thought, golly, I don't want to be crippled, from this. So I left the company in 85. I took about a year to kind of get um, under control. I also went through a terrible divorce. My husband at the time decided, oh, she's not a ballerina anymore. I'm done. So he was gone. And then, so my whole life just shattered. And so it was a very, very tough transition. Um, so from there, I started thinking, what do I enjoy? What do I like? What's going to make me happy? Because I was so shattered. I'd started at 8 years old, and here I am at 31, and I'm like done. And I thought, wow, this is kind of rough. And now they have a program. Actually, they have a program to help dancers make the transition, which is so good. I'm so glad they have that. Um, but I started working in a nursery and a plant nursery. And because I love plants, my parents had planted, because I'm from Maryland, they planted maple trees in the snow one year. And I thought that was so neat. And then I used to sit in those trees and read books. So I really love plants, and I love the falls, and I love the spring, and the the beautiful cherry blossoms, and just so the whole idea of color kind of grabbed me. And then learning Latin, because here you are, ballets in French, plant materials in Latin. So that was kind of fun. So, there's another language, right? And then as um, I had a crew from the nursery, and I started doing little design things, and then installs, and I had to learn plant material. I had to learn how tall it grew, where it needed to go sun or shade, how much water, which plants went with others. How could I make this design? My dad's landscape paintings, And all our trips to the Corcoran and the National Gallery in my childhood all of a sudden came flooding back. And so I realized I had kind of an eye for putting plant material together, colors, and I love color. So I used lots and lots of color. I did one job for a Pilates studio in Houston, and my business just took off. It took off, and it was hilarious. So I bought one truck, then I bought another truck, then I bought a trailer, then I bought a couple more trucks, a couple more trailers. I mean, really, it took off faster than I ever imagined it would take off.
Now you were in Houston, Texas at that time.
Correct.
So you were really in a hot area.
Yes.
We had to deal with that intense heat.
Oh, terrible. Yeah.
I mean, here in Maryland, we just recently experienced a lot of heat, but that's not normal for us.
It only lasted 3 or 4 days. Yeah. You know, when that heat hits Texas, and it's usually like the end of April, it gets so hot. And then that's going to go through until November. So you've got this huge growing span, because things don't stop growing. They grow, but you've got to water and water and water. Yeah. It's a totally different. I now I'm having to learn, to do it and water less. And I think I killed one plant. I've already killed a little dogwood, my favorite plant, and I've already killed it, I think, with too much water. It's like, oh well,
Yeah.
As my landscape teacher, or it was the extension service teacher. He said, if you're not out there killing plants, you're not gardening. So that's so
that makes me feel so much better.
That's so tough. It's
so much better. Well, there are two more images that I just have to share with the audience, because I think they just need to see the juxtaposition. And it's this one where here you are in your beautiful gown and satin shoes, leaning on this tall strength of this ballet man. What do you call the ballet man?
Danseur.
A danseur.
Yes.
And here you are at the nursery, which I love this picture.
I do too, because it's one of my favorite trees. It was a sycamore.
You can still stand next to the danseur, but now the danseur is a treat. Yeah. Thank you for indulging me on that.
Oh, of course.
Well, I'm curious. You talked a little bit about the factors that guided you to choose the business. And I am totally with you when you describe it as color and beauty and being in nature. Those things really resonate with me. But making the shift from art of dance and entertainment to a business that you describe, what lessons did you bring with you from dance into this?
Excellent question. And one that I would like dancers to really understand is that you have so many skills. You have so many skills. The determination, just to stick with it and not quit, and just get up another day and do it another day. And even if it hurts, you get out there and you do it. I mean, dancers are the best employees ever, because they don't stop, and they work hard all day long, every day. It's really, really, that determination is huge. My parents were very good hard workers, so I had a good work ethic from both. My parents were teachers and got up every day and went to work. And then it was the artistic part transferred beautifully.
Yeah.
It really felt so natural to me to do that. I could look at somebody's garden And I could just all of a sudden, I could start seeing it in my mind. Like that. I love that Queen's Gambit where she saw the chests on the ceiling.
Yes, I
I
remember.
could go into their garden. I can go into the garden and I could go, oh, yeah, we need something a little tall there and we need this here. And yes, and I can see the shapes and I love curves. Everybody called me the queen of curves, because to me, it feels like gardens need to be curvy.
Well, they do need to be curvy because they need to invite you in to see
Right,
what's around the curve, around the
right,
bend.
right. But, a lot of people in River Oaks, where I was doing, they wanted these square parterre gardens and it was very formal. And so you do what the customer wants, of
Yeah.
course. But yeah, it's just, I think those two things. The thing that was hard in business was we were very protected in the ballet. We were very, very cloistered. They wouldn't let anybody in the stage door because people, they didn't want people kind of grabbing us and taking us off, and kind of, we were vulnerable
Yeah.
because we were so cloistered. So we were protected
Mhm.
by and then, the stage, and then the orchestra pit, and then the people are there. We weren't really too public, except when I met somebody in the grocery store and she yelled at me for leaving the ballet because she was so mad I was leaving. But things like that. We were protected. Well, out in the business world, oh my goodness gracious, you're just like a lamb to slaughter. And also, there weren't very many women in the landscape business.
Yeah.
It's kind of a good old boy business. And I don't think they especially liked it that I was there. But they thought I wasn't going to last. And so they just kind of blew me off a little bit. And then after, 10 years, and then 20 years, and then 30 years, I did gain some respect. And it was another opportunity, another language. I learned Spanish.
Mhm.
My crew were Spanish. And so I wanted their respect,
Yeah.
and for them to know what I knew what I was doing. So
Yeah.
I learned another language to speak to them. And, but that was good. That was all positive.
Also, I was thinking one of the shifts and part of the difference when you're protected versus and you're in business, suddenly you have to deal with numbers and the books.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking oftentimes people who are great entrepreneurs don't want to deal with that because it's boring. But as a ballerina, you had to stay with something, whether it bored you or not. Am I right?
100%. And numbers didn't bore me, but I'm not great at them. So what happened was I found QuickBooks Pro. And it was so I didn't ever do any kind of off the cuff estimate. I did it all on the computer. It was all itemized. Every single stone and plant and dirt and labor and everything was itemized on the computer. And that's how I could successfully do that. My bookkeeping skills, even worse. But I never could find anybody to help me do the bookkeeping. Every once in a while, I'd find somebody who needed a job, and but I really did most of that myself,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Wow. That really impresses me because when I started my business, and now that's almost 40 years ago, I had a bookkeeper that just happened to be she wanted to change from full-time job, having multiple clients. She was with me 25 years, and I'd see her once a month and she would do her thing. And it was so perfect. She knew how to do bookkeeping. She knew even how to do the financial statements. So
Oh,
when I got to the accountant, I just handed it over and they went, oh my goodness, they ooh and ah.
oh yeah, yeah.
And when she retired,
Yeah, unlike my accountant who saved me, saved me most of the time.
Wow.
And she would look at my bookkeeping. She'd go, "Oh gosh, Suzanne, what is this? What's that? Where was that?" I mean, so we had a lot of cleaning up
Makes a
to do.
huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, now you have children.
I
Yes?
do. I do.
Uh, Did they play a role in this selection and this? I mean, they must have played some role.
Not really. No, they really didn't. They played a role in, they came into my life at 91 and 93, and I was 37 and 39. So I was way, I'd already started the landscaping before that. And no, I'm sorry, I didn't. It was after that. But I worked with my children for 5 years, and I stayed home with the children and got them into elementary school. And then I started my landscape company.
Ah,
So, they really didn't have any thought about it.
okay.
Was never, it's just something I was thinking about and enjoying doing my own garden and kind of practicing along the way. And I have pictures of the kids out in the garden, and Wes would be on a blanket in the front yard, and I'd be pulling weeds. So
Oh, that's marvelous. Well, you know, I particularly enjoyed reading about your desire and commitment to beauty, um, and the call of the land. And you've talked about this a bit. Uh, there still must have been some risks or even doubts that you were going to be able to make a living from starting this particular business. Uh, Today, are there lessons you took from this that have continued to guide you through life?
well, I'm quite the optimist. And my husband was probably not as optimistic as I was, but he said I was like a freight train and he could never stop me. So I just, it was just that energy. I had a lot of energy too. In the ballet, you see these people on Broadway and in the ballet, people have energy. And so I had all this energy. I needed something to do. And so then I bought the tree farm in the year 2000 and started the tree farm, which was very, very ambitious and probably in hindsight a little bit over the top ambitious. Um, but I did buy a beautiful property, and I did grow some trees, and we sold some trees, for the 25 years. And I don't think, I certainly didn't get rich selling trees. But I bought a beautiful property and I enhanced it, and I built the a barn into a cottage, and I fixed up the farmhouse, and I built another barn for the equipment, and my manager who ran the farm. And so in the end, I had something to sell. So that's what I sold before. Um, when I moved back to Maryland, I had some results for my
Yeah,
labor.
definitely. Uh, well, I also have to comment. My I have spent some time in Texas because my husband is from Texas, and I do really admire the fact that you made it in that particular culture.
Yes, yes, yeah. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I think I kind of charmed a few people and just kind of kept showing up. You just keep showing up and you do things, and then I would buy trees from them, and they wouldn't really buy from me. Saying I buy from somebody else, and for my projects, and I was spending some significant dollars for, I would be buying like 30 100-gallon trees and installing those in somebody's ranch. So, we were kind of blowing and going for a while. That was significant. And then it just, as you age, all of this just gets so hard to do.
Yes. Yeah. Mm. Well, I think I have a final question for you, but I have another one that I just have to ask. It's going back to your days as a in ballet, because we've mentioned the little satin shoes that you wore. People are. I know I have always been curious. What is that shoe like? And do you wear one pair? Do you talk about that particular, how, what would you call it? Um, in football, you wear big shoulders, but you're wearing something on your feet. Talk about that.
Can you go back to that picture of Ken, the one right before this one?
Okay.
So this is a ballet. This was Etudes, and this was called the Sylph scene. And so it was very delicate and very lovely and soft. It was a second section of Etudes. The first part of it was so hard and technical and in a short tutu. So there was a costume change. And then in the end, you go back to the other short tutu. This was kind of in the middle. I want to mention this because Kenneth McCombie was my partner and we danced a lot together. And he was from Edinburgh and he's still there. And he was such a good partner. And this was something that we enjoyed dancing together so much. But the shoes in this particular had to be a little softer because you didn't want to go clack, 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 clacking around the stage when you have to do these beautiful soft movements and jumps and it's very graceful and beautiful and has a different feeling. Whereas the first and the third part of Etudes is a technical nightmare that you have to have really hard shoes because you're doing fouettes and you're doing all these. It's just, it's probably one of the most demanding ballets I've ever done is Etudes. Um, but I can't remember if I had time to change my shoes. I don't think I did. I think I had to wear a brand new pair for the first part to make it all the way through the ballet. And then, like in the Swan Lake picture before, I had to wear that was second act. So I had time to change my shoes. I'd have three different pairs.
That's not it, is it?
You can keep going back. So there, second act Swan Lake is so similar to that Sylph scene that you would wear a softer pair that you could kind of felt didn't have the hardness so much. You could really, really manipulate the shoes and make your feet really soft and beautiful. And then in the third act, which I don't have a picture of, in the Black Swan, you had to have a brand new pair. So I had hundreds of shoes in my dressing room, and I would choose which pair I was going to wear for each act and change. And then we had a oven. We would put some kind of wax, not wax, floor, some kind of floor hardening product inside, and we stuck them in the oven to make them last a little bit longer because I went through hundreds of pairs. Hundreds. It was just, I have 2 boxes of shoes at home
Oh, so
that I couldn't throw away.
you couldn't throw away. They're like friends, I'm sure.
Well, or enemies, frenemies. It was pretty
Well,
rough.
I didn't realize that you had to adjust even your shoe to fit the ballet.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume that in some cases you would have a wooden toe that goes clack, clack.
They weren't really wood, they're glue.
Ah,
They're glue and sawdust. And we went actually when we were in London performing at the Sadler's Wells, we went to the Freed's shoe manufacturer, and I met the guy who made my shoes.
Ah,
And I remember the guy who was taking us through. He said, now girls, don't talk to the men too nicely. They'll get a big head and they'll want more money or something like that. It was so funny. But anyway, I met him.
okay. Well, thank you for that tangent, because it's always intrigued me, because it's just simply part of your costume.
Right, right. It's part
Yeah.
of you've got the hair, the makeup, the costume, the warm up before, and then the shoes.
And all the shoes.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So it's a lot, I should say. I mean, just me getting prepped for this little show. And the interesting thing to me is, of all the things that I do to prepare for the show and do post production, it's putting my makeup on that bothers me the most.
I know. Well, yeah, yeah.
It's silly, but just how it is. Well, I'm really curious. What is your next step? And is there a question that I should have asked you?
Ah, well, the next step is really, I'm not even sure what the next step is. I've retired. I sold my business. I moved to Maryland. I'm back with my family. I made that was a lot of work just doing that.
Mhm.
Now I'm enjoying being quiet and making some new friends and kind of reading and learning, and I love history. And so my father was a huge Civil War history buff,
Mm.
and I I don't know what passion is going to grab me and take me, but I'm working on my garden, which is really a challenge because I'm on a mountain and the soil is impossible,
Right?
and the deer are eating
Good
everything
words.
I put in there. So it's quite a learning curve. This morning I was putting together some kind of tinfoil thing to hang on my trees to see if I can scare them away. Even if I have a dog, Obi, who helps me with that. So I'm learning about gardening in Maryland.
Yeah. Which is such a different climate than Texas.
Yes, thank heavens.
Yes.
I like it. I like the snow. I like the cool. I love the rain. The rain is cold.
Yeah.
The rain comes down in these big drops and it's so cold and the plants love it. And I'm observing that.
Yeah. Oh, fabulous. As you describe these things to me, it's clear that you really see the world that's in front of you. Some people just walk through it, but artists learn to see it.
Mm-hmm.
You've learned to see it. So, and you've really helped me to see ballet a little bit closer. And I want to thank you so much for that, Suzanne.
You're so very, very welcome. I enjoyed meeting you and speaking with you today.
Thank you. Every now and then, there is something that changes how I think about the world. Grounds for Thought is a place where I talk about these moments so that you can explore the meaning for yourself. A ballerina's instrument is her body, her entire body. As I considered what other professions use their entire body, I immediately thought of NFL players. Let's look at some statistics. Researchers have ranked professional dancing as the most physically demanding occupation tested, scoring 97 out of 100, well above traditional athletes. The difference is that football, for example, demands explosive, short burst power, while ballet demands sustained precision under physical stress, often through pain that would sideline a football player. What does this mean in relation to their careers? Well, An NFL running back, the most physically punished position in American sports, lasts 3.3 years. And we consider that a brutal career. A ballerina does something comparably demanding to her body and performs for roughly 10 to 15 years. And on this measure alone, the ballerina outlasts the linebacker, and she does it in satin shoes. Can you begin to see the contrast between those wide shoulder pads versus those satin shoes? But what about the impact on the body? Well, injuries in NFL players have roughly a 4% chance of injury per game. Ballet dancers? Studies put their career injury rates at 67 to 95%. Both professions essentially guarantee physical damage, and the ballet dancer just accumulates it slowly over a longer performance window. Endurance. Oh, this surprised me. Well, maybe it didn't surprise me. It makes such sense after you know it. But a study in the American Journal of Sports Medicine tested lower body endurance in ballet dancers versus team sport athletes, including contact sport players. Well, ballet dancers took significantly longer to reach fatigue. That is to say, they had much more endurance. 97 over 100. Now, the true comparables are really gymnastics and figure skating. And research consistently puts these three, ballet, gymnastics, figure skating, in a class together because all three require the same rare combination simultaneously: cardiovascular endurance, explosive power, extreme flexibility, balance, and precision execution under aesthetic judgment. Now, you can't just be strong or just be fast. You have to be everything at once, and it has to look effortless. Moreover, gymnastics and figure skating are judged competitions. The pressure is concentrated in a few minutes. A ballerina performs for 2 to 3 hours, multiple nights a week, for an entire season. I never thought of ballet in relation to leadership, by the way. Yet what I see is that ballet is a remarkable training ground for leadership. A ballerina must have endurance, explosive moments of power, you saw those leaps, flexibility, balance, and precision execution under aesthetic judgment. Now, effective leaders must be able to endure in the midst of an unexpected event. They must be ready at any point to quickly make decisions in moments that may even feel explosive. And to bring along their team, they must be flexible, balanced, and provide whatever precision, knowledge, information is required. And on top of all this, leaders are judged, perhaps not from an aesthetic perspective, but from one of accountability. Retired NFL players are welcomed in the business world for many reasons. In future, when I have a job opening and I am presented with two candidates, one from the NFL and the other from ballet, I will judge them in entirely different light. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope this conversation has offered you a new appreciation of an art that demands even more of the body than being a quarterback in the NFL, and with much less monetary reward. I hope you are inspired to think of the story of resilience you just heard. Small actions create compounding impact, can really change things. Your hitting like and subscribe is one of those small actions. It tells the algorithm this show matters. That helps us to reach more people, and lets us bring you more solid information to support you in your work and life. If this episode gave you something, this is one way that you can give back. And we'll keep showing up to return the favor. I'm Madeline Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilient leader.